Sometimes people ask me, what was your favorite job? And honestly, if I had to pick, it'd be really hard. I kind of just want to pick like little segments out of each job and create like my all-time favorite job. I like to look back on my time as a river ranger over in the Tetons. I rode on the Snake River, and it was in the most beautiful area, mostly between Hoback and Alpine Junctions. And, you know, there was all these big rapids, but my favorite was obviously Lunch Counter, where a bunch of people would come out, watch you. They had photographers, and different times of the year, you know, the flow rate was different. And my very first trip I took down rowing myself down that river was my boss was in the front of the raft and my parents were in the back of the raft. And holy cow, if I would have dumped them in Lunch Counter, Mama would have been swimming and she wouldn't have been happy about that. But I loved being back out on the Tetons. That was my second time working in the Tetons. And it is one of my favorite spots anywhere in the U.S. But then I think about it, and if I would have stayed anywhere that I lived, I probably would have stayed living on the Oregon coast. I loved living in Waldport. Waldport was a small, quiet town. I could ride my bike from the fire department up to the Forest Service office, to the library, to the grocery store, and over to the beach. And of course, my favorite food truck, Chubby's. I worked as a park ranger there to start, park ranger for the Siuslaw National Forest, and I absolutely loved that job too. I'd get to take little kids out on field trips to the tide pools, and I'd get to go work a salmon watch up near the falls, and I got to train my interns going from the dunes to the beaches, to the woods. I led campfire programs and had talks, you know, around the campfire that people come to. And that was kind of like the dream job. That is the job that I went to college for, you know. I grew up going to campfire programs when my family would travel to the national parks. Me and Mom would go listen about pikas or the ice worms or whatever we were hearing the park rangers talk about. And that was the coolest thing as a kid. And that is what I wanted to be. And I miss it. I do. I get asked a lot if I'd go back. And I think about it. But my family's here in Hardin County, and I've created a life here, and I wouldn't give that up for anything. To me, I learned that you could live in the coolest spot and have the coolest job, but if you didn't have your family and friends, it was never going to be home. And Hardin County is my home. I'm happy to be back here, and I wouldn't give it up for anything. I loved my job as the park ranger. I loved my job working as a raft guide and wildland firefighting. I loved doing the search and rescue work. I loved it all. I would live those lives 1,000 times again. And I would live the life that I live now 1,000 times again. I love that I'm creating a space here in Hardin County, working at an MMA and jiu-jitsu gym. I love that. I love that I'm still writing. I love that I still make time to adventure. And this is home. It's always going to be home. And I might not have the same type of job now. I work a normal 9 to 5. And yes, it's not ideal, but it creates the space for me to be able to be home with my family. And it lets me be able to have the environment where I can write and I can coach jiu-jitsu. I get to coach from little 3.5-year-olds and up. And I love that. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. This is my home. I'm thankful and very blessed to have lived the lives that I've lived. But I'm happy to be here too.